Kal Kadosh, thank you. First of all, Bezrat Hashem Siyata Dishmaya, we wanted first of all to say that we have a lot of Akarat Tov to the organizers. So this is Blainarad, if they say that anyone, they make you work for your money. So Baruch Hashem, Eitan and his wife, Baruch Hashem, they always want more shiurim and more shiurim. And they're always the first ones also that they want to do it in their house. So Bezrat Hashem, that they should always have a lot of siyata dishmaya. Bezrat Hashem to continue having a lot of simachot here. And Bezrat Hashem also a lot of nacha from their children. Amen. So the fact that we're all here already in itself, we have to say kol hakavod. Why? Because that means that we have a question that we want to ask ourselves: how do we educate our children? And the truth is, something very personal is, it's very, very difficult to give such shiurim because there's a lot of...
Can we name the shiur for
Ben Esther Sarah.
And my daughter,
Adel Miriam Bar Michal yeah?
And they just sent me a name. Nima Bat Esther.
Nima Bat Esther. שהקדוש ברוך הוא יפל רפואה שלמה מנשמיים. שיהיו שבי לרפואתם בעזרת השם. Okay? So, the question that we are going to ask ourselves is this. We have an incredible gift. What's the gift? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a gift, which is our children. How do we know that they're a gift? We remember the famous story with Rabbi Meir Balanes and his wife Bruria. Rabbi Meir Balanes had his two children that they passed away. And what happened was Bruria didn't want to tell her husband, because if she's going to tell him so abruptly, it might have some negative effects. So what happened? So what happened is that she came to him and she told him that they were going to start eating. And she tells him, by the way, if somebody gives you a loan, and now they come to collect the loan, are you going to be happy, going to be sad? He has no clue what's going on. Obviously, if somebody's going to collect the loan, they give you a loan, you come back, you're happy, you give them back, the deposit, and that's it. So then she went and she said, okay, fine. So she comes and she takes him to the attic, and both of his children passed away. And then he starts crying. And he went and she tells him, but I don't understand. You told me that if somebody gives you a loan, and then they come and they take it back, you're not going to be sad. Why are you going to be sad? And therefore, we actually realize that the child is actually a gift of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rav Chaim Kanievsky was once screaming at a father, and he went and he told him, Al techetu bayeled. What does it mean, Al techetu? Don't sin against the child. He says, why? It's not your child. HaKadosh Baruch Hu give every single child to us as a gift, which is a holy neshama, and we are only the ones in charge in order to educate them. But that's it. But really, Be'emet, we have to do our part. And it's not more than that. So therefore, we cannot come and just decide and say things as if to say that it's mine. It's not really mine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us this pikadon in order to take care of the best that we can of our children. But really, Be'emet, they're Hashem's children. And that's what we have to actually just internalize. So when we're going to start, the reason why I said it's very, very difficult is because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. So we're going to start with the following question. Chinuch. How do we translate chinuch? Education. Anybody else?
Raising healthy children.
Healthy children, okay. So for example, let's try to develop it a little bit more. If I'm going to come and the child right now took a sidur and threw it on the floor, and I come and I scream at them, I just educated them?
No.
Is that chinuch or not?
How old is
Direction?
How old is he?
How old is he? 4-year-old, 3-year-old. Yeah? So this is one of the questions that we're going to try to delve into tonight. What exactly is chinuch? Why? Because a lot of us, we think that this is called chinuch, and many times it's actually anti-chinuch. It's actually against the chinuch. And we'll have to bring examples and we'll try to explain. But we have to remember that children come with a manual, right? A user's manual. And the user's manual is what? Is the Torah. Somebody once told me when we were learning Shalom Bayit, right? Do we have that for Shalom Bayit? Do women come with a user's manual? So I told everyone the famous story, no? Somebody once went to a library and they asked the librarian, they went and they told him, listen, I need a book. He said, what's the book called? He says, how to control my wife. So he told him, go check science fiction. Right? But anyway, but that was just to do with the concept. Science fiction means that it's not really true. It's impossible. It doesn't exist, but that's what it is, right? But the Torah is actually a manual that teaches us how to educate our children. And now we're going to start as follows. The Navi at the end of Malachi says what's going to happen at the end of days. And when the Navi says what's going to happen, he says something incredible, right? This is the last chapter of Malachi. And he says like this, in the generation of the Mashiach coming, we're going to have three forces which descend upon the world. Three different things are going to happen. Number one, confusion and ashkafa. Meaning a lot of people are going to come and we're not going to realize what's wrong and what's right. And we think that according to our perspectives, what is correct and what's incorrect. And therefore, again, it's not the Torah, it's the culture that we live in. Number two, emotional dysfunction, which means anxiety, whether it's going to be insecurity, broken self-esteem. It's not that the people are bad, just that the world is going to be in such a status quo, and we'll speak about this a little bit later on. The last one is superficiality, which means everything is going to be superficial. This Rabbi Akiva went and he says, "Hakol olech acharei marait ayin." Everything goes according to what the eye sees. I only thought that this depends upon, right, certain cleaners. When you get a cleaning lady, sometimes, you come and you'll see that they only pick up exactly where it's dirty, but they're not going to broom the entire floor. When they see something dirty in the middle, they'll just clean that little tiny area, and then that's it. Everything else, well, you look at it, it looks clean, but it's not really clean, but that's just the way that it is. Everything is superficial, and the truth is on this, it's something incredible. Why? He says because nowadays the image is more important than reality, right? And this you could speak a lot about. One of the main concepts is miskenot, the girls. Why do I say the girls? A girl nowadays, she has to put upon herself to look beautiful. She wants to copy herself to someone, for example, in a magazine. Now, they don't realize that they have to touch up the picture so much in the magazine that it's not even real. So it's not even a real picture that you're trying to compare yourself to. So if that's not real, how am I going to compare something which is not real? But it's true. Everything is based upon what it looks, but it's not really real. It's not there. And therefore, if right now he's going to come and say, how does my child look, or how he presents himself, or how does he appear, that's more important than who he is. So then what do you want from a person? A person once was speaking with the rabbi, and he went and he said, what's more important, the way that things look or not? So he said, the way that things look. So he says, if it's like that, there's nothing to do. Some people, they have an incredible marriage on paper. On paper means it makes sense. The marriage, they both come from good families, they both have things, but the marriage is terrible. But as long as it's perceived on the outside as good, so that's it. I'm happy. Why am I happy? Because it looks good. But it's not real. But that's the problem that we're living in this time during the Kvatad Meshicha, which means during this time we're not actually living in a society where things are real. It's, somebody said it best, it's Disneyland all over the place. What does that mean? It's a world of, it's not real, but that's where we're living in. So now what happens is as follows. Shlomo HaMelech came and he invented a word that usually we do not use. What does that mean? The entire Torah, when we use the word chinuch, it's not really written. The only time it's written is about chinuch yeladim, because other times it's not written about chinuch. So therefore, where does this word come from? So there's a Chatam Sofer that he says something incredible. The Chatam Sofer says that Rav Shira Gaon was able to see the future of every single human being in the pasuk of Zeh Sefer Toldot Odam. Meaning in the Torah, in Parashat Bereshit, it says this is the book of all mankind. He was able to look into one pasuk and realize the future of every single human being, just from one pasuk. Now, if you're going to translate that word, how do you translate this is the book of human beings? It doesn't even make sense. So how do you do that exactly? But Shlomo HaMelech came and he came up with a new word. What was the word exactly? So we would have thought to say that Chanoch, right? So they told me, let's say, to education, right? Somebody else said instruction, right? Or to direct them, to instruct them in a certain way, to teach them, discipline them. Rashi says completely different explanation. You know what chinuch is? To initiate, initiation. Where else do we see the word chanoch? Which one? That is the pasuk that we're talking about. Chanoch lanar al pi darko. But where else do we use the same terminology of chet, nun, chav sofit? I want to make you think a little bit. No?
And yet all eyes on you.
No pressure. Chet Nun. What does it sound? I'm sure the second I'm going to say it, everyone's going to say, obviously, Chanukah. That's number one. Where else is it? So you just continue the same thought. Chanukat Hamizbeach. Chanukat Habayit. Chanukat Bet HaMikdash. What is Chanukat? Rashi there, he explains that Shlomo HaMelech says, you're initiating something. You're starting something new. So I'll give you an example. Right? The Kohen, when he's going to start the new service. Or Lavdil Elef Avdalot in England, right? When you want to make somebody into a judge, right? So what they would do, they would call it silking. So they come, they put him on the clothing. They're going to put him on the clothing of the judge, right? And now all of a sudden, now he becomes a judge. By the way, you should know, I don't know if anybody knows this. In Morocco, there was a minhag that only a rabbi would put the talit over his head. Anybody knew that? Yeah? You know that or not? Meaning the talit over the head was only a rabbi. Why? Huh? No, all of Morocco. It's brought down to Magen Avot. All of Morocco. All of Morocco. Why? Anybody know? The way to give semicha was putting the talit over the head.
Wow.
And since the way to give semicha was putting the talit over the head, that was only for a rabbi to have that talit over the head. You're right that in Gibraltar until today, I would say 80 to 90% still keep it, which means that unless a person has semicha, they're not allowed to put the talit over the head. I remember when I was in Gibraltar, even for the Seret Dibrot, they wouldn't cover their head. You would have a hat, right? Or they would put the talit just for the Seret Dibrot. But other than that, it was mamash 100%. Why? Because it was certain, it was like Zama, it's something very, very high. It's not for everybody. What happens is Chanukah means to initiate. What does it mean now? You're starting something new. You go move into a new house. You want that the start of the new house should be something incredible. But now let's go back to the pasuk. What does the pasuk say? Chanoch lanar al pi darko, gam ki yaskin lo yasu mimenu, which means you have to educate the child. I just translated educating. It's not true. It's not educating. Listen carefully. It's initiating the child, right, that he should do something right now in order that when he gets older, he's not going to abandon it. What does that mean? So the majority of us understand that what is chinuch? That right now I'm going to do something and I'm going to think about the present. So I'm going to ask you right now, I want my child beside me right now, and I want them to say Birkat HaMazon. Doesn't matter the age. And what happens? I'm going to start telling them off. Screaming it. You have to say Birkat HaMazon. Right now I got them to do Birkat HaMazon. So did I just do chinuch? No. I forced them to say Birkat HaMazon? Yes. But in the future, they're going to run away from Birkat HaMazon. So I did the exact opposite of chinuch. I thought, if somebody's going to ask you right now, what did you just do? Yeah, I just did chinuch. What was the chinuch that you just did? No, he just said Birkat HaMazon. Well, 1 second. You're right. I just forced them to say Birkat HaMazon right now. But do you think in the future, 20 years time, they're going to be saying Birkat HaMazon? They would never say Birkat HaMazon. Because if you just came and just forced them to do something that they now hate it, that's not chinuch. That's the exact opposite of chinuch. Chinuch, the purpose is that I'm going to make sure that in 50 years from now, they're still going to be doing it. Now, I cannot do that if I'm going to force them and they're going to hate it. Because that's not chinuch then. So therefore, obviously, right, when I come and I'm only focusing on the today, whether it's going to be a child, right, I'm going to stop the tantrum now. I'm going to get them to do bedtime now, homework, anything that if I'm focusing on the now, that's not chinuch. Because the chinuch was, as we already explained, the initiation that I started a process now that I'm going to get the results much later. Now, what does that mean now? It means that it could be that if I focus on the short term, which is right now, maybe I won the moment, but I lost in the future. But if I'm going to focus in the future, sometimes maybe I lose right now, but in the long run, I always win. In the long run, that's exactly where I won. And that's the Torah's definition of Chanoch Lanar al pi darko. Okay, so now everyone understood. So very, very clear. What is chinuch? Chinuch is not educating on the right now. Because if I thought that chinuch is educating right now, we're wrong. Chinuch means that in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, they're going to be doing it because I just came and I gave them the seeds that I planted it. And this is now right now the planting of it to initiate it to continue going forwards. So if somebody's going to ask me and they're going to say, 1 second, but what I just did right now was chinuch, I'm going to ask, 1 second, do you think that in 20 years' time are they going to do it? If the answer is yes, then it was chinuch. If the answer is no, you did the exact opposite of chinuch. And therefore it's even going to be worse, which we're going to speak about how do we fix that, okay? So fine. So that's step number 1, understanding what exactly is chinuch. So chinuch is not focusing on today, chinuch is going to focus on the future. One important concept before we continue is the Greeks, they had a Greek legacy. This Rav Yoel Kluf, he actually taught that basically the Greeks, they wanted to go against the Jews. So what did they do? They came and they wanted to break the inner sense of a Jew. That's why they came and they made many decrees against us. What's Chanukah? Chanukah, they tried to destroy us from top to bottom. Anything that they can, they tried to do. And they tried to destroy our spirit. Because remember, the Greeks was not against the Jew as a body. It's not like the not the Hitler that they didn't want to kill us. You could stay you could stay alive. I want you to stay alive. But I just want you to become a Greek. I want you to change your philosophy. I want to change who you are. So what did they do? They went and they put a lot of different things about negativity in the human being. And until today, we live with this negativity. So whether it's going to be self-doubt, we doubt in ourselves, low self-esteem, we don't feel good, unworthy, all those things they planted within us. And now the problem is, it's still within us. And therefore what happens is, now we have a problem. Because if I don't love myself, so I can't love my child. If I don't feel good about myself, or I don't value myself, so I can't value my child. Because I could only do the maximum of what I have in myself. So therefore I can never do that. If I don't respect myself, how am I going to respect somebody else? That doesn't exist. Because it's only of something that you have within you to do for something else. So therefore, one of the things that we're going to have to understand is, how does chinuch start? So the Gemara already brings down, and this is the Torah, he says that there's 2 categories in chinuch. There's what's called Yemin Mekarevet and the small doche. Yemin Mekarevet means the right hand brings them closer. The small doche means that the left hand, right, is going to push away. Now, why is it specifically the right and the left? Because usually the right is a stronger arm. So it means you have to bring them closer much more than what you're pushing them away. You're going to have to push them away, but you have to bring them much closer. So what does that refer to? Yamin Mekarev is what's called unconditional love. You have to come and you have to show to your children that all the love that you have, whether it's going to be warmth, attention, affection, bonding, connection, anything that you have to see the good in the child. And that's what's called the Yamin Mekarev. You're bringing them closer to you. What is the small doche? What is the left hand which is pushing away? So that's going to be what we call healthy and calm authority. What does that mean? Some people think that what does it mean authority? That I'm going to come and I'm going to start screaming. Right? This was actually an incredible story that happened with Rav Shlomo HaMelech, I think it was, that they went and they asked him, right? A father once asked him and he said, am I allowed to shout so my kids will listen to me? So Rav Shlomo HaMelech went and he said, if you shout, they're no longer listening to you. They're listening to your voice. Why? He said, authority is not volume. It's the calm confidence of someone who feels no need to prove he's in charge. Do you know one of the biggest things that you could see is if somebody is in charge, they have authority, they're not going to care, right, if one little person is not going to listen to them. So imagine Lavdil Elef Avdalot, right? Trump is walking into Congress and he's going to give his state of the big speech, and all of a sudden everybody comes and they have their, his papers, and you're going to have, right, some old woman coming and she's going to tear it up in front of his face. Yeah? It actually did happen, Yeah, okay. It actually did happen. So she's going to come and she's going to tear it up in front of his face. So now, if Trump Be'emet is a person that he's got the high authority, he's not going to care that this woman just did that. Now, other people are going to say, how dare you do such a thing? How are you going to do such a thing? Well, you're going to come and you're going to tear up my speech in front of my face? But a person that has authority, he's not going to have to run after every single time that somebody is going to come and go against his authority. Because he's so high, it doesn't even speak to him. Yeah, he just ignores it. He just continues. And that's what we're going to have to speak about, obviously, today, because it's not anger, power, force. There was a story once in Eretz Yisrael that the person came and he went and the rabbi went and told him, listen, you guys have to put authority in your house. Right? They called him up. The child was in the hospital. He said, what happened? He said, no, he put authority. He says, well, he didn't realize that the guy went and he was learning judo. Right? And the wife is coming and screaming at her husband, what are you doing? He says, the rabbi told me to put authority in my house. I'm putting authority. Boom. He starts beating the guy up, beating his child up. That's an authority. Authority is not with the overexertion. That's not coming. It's very clear. It's healthy, but it has to be with, again, giving authority. When we're talking about now, what is unconditional love? So what would you tell me? What is unconditional love?
Love even you're upset.
Love even if you're upset. That's good. It's true, actually. Anybody else?
It's avoiding.
I'll give you an example, right? Unconditional what?
Unconditional love is no matter how your child behaves, it can be the high, it can be the low, you will love the child unconditionally. So you won't treat the child any differently.
Of what they're doing. 100%, I agree. So I'll give you an example. Right now, they went and they said a Birkat Hamazon beautifully. Right? So you come and say, I love you. You did an incredible Birkat Hamazon. Is that unconditional love?
No.
No. Do you know that that's actually bad? Why? Why is it negative? Because that means what you're doing is you're showing the child, I only love you because I loved your Birkat Hamazon. So that means 1 second, if I didn't say a good Birkat Hamazon, you don't love me? So unconditional love is like what they were saying, not only because of anger, because of anything else, you love the child who they are. Nothing to do with their actions. It doesn't matter whether they're doing something good, something not good. It means, now again, this does not mean also spoiling. Some people, they come and they think, how do you love a child? So it's very, very simple. I'm going to spoil them. I'll give them everything that they want. That's not unconditional love. Right? It's actually something very, very bad because you're basically giving them everything and you're not supposed to. You have to train them not to get everything that they want. So therefore, if you think you're going to bribe them, that's not love. Right? That's very far from love. Right? Or for example, ignoring misbehavior. You're going to say, no, but it's okay. I love them. Forget about how they're acting. That's not true. That's not unconditional love. Right? Again, or compliments. Unconditional again means I love you for who you are because Hashem gave you to me. And therefore I love you. Doesn't matter what happens. And it doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter. I love you. That's it. Now, it's not only just to know it or you think that they feel it. You have to actually express it. Right? There was a famous joke that they said, I think it was with Einstein. Right? They went, or there was another one, but they basically went and they told him, right? Somebody came for Shalom Bait to the rabbi. And the rabbi says, no, what's the problem? So he says, so the wife comes and she says, very, very simple, right? He doesn't tell me that he loves me. So he comes to the husband and he says, no, what do you say? He says, listen, I did tell her. She says, yeah, you told me when we got married, whatever it is, 40, 50 years ago. So he said, what, you never said it again? He said, no. He says, if I change my mind, I'll let her know. Yeah, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that he loves her. Love has to be that you have to actually say it. You have to express it. Because many times we think that we love and they don't actually feel it. And they don't feel that love. And now it's very, very important that it has to actually be felt. Now, when we're coming and we're saying, okay, fine. So therefore, if he does something wrong, the father will still love him, but he actually has to say it. So now the question is, why don't they automatically feel loved then? Why doesn't the child today automatically feel loved? How many times does a child come and he tells his parents, you don't love me? And you're like, what? What did you just say? What got into their head? Why is it that now children are going to come and say, you don't love me? Why do they feel not loved?
Because you reprehend them or they don't get everything that they want.
But would the previous generations have the same thing or not? No. So we have to understand then what changed, obviously. Correct? Something changed. Something was wired wrong, that in the older generations, you could have, it would never even come into the question. Whether it's the respect, whether anything that's happening, there was never that question. Would your grandfather come in, or don't go even to your grandfather, would your father come and say, have a doubt, 1 second, does my parents love me or not love me? No. So what happened now? What's going on exactly, right? That things are changing.
You show them that something is more important than them.
So one of them was what we already mentioned, that at the end of days, right, because of the superficiality and the way that people are negative, it's true. But there's something incredible. Listen to this. Rav Aryeh Steinman, this is obviously the previous Rav Steinman, the previous Gadol, the Shiva of Panovich, he came and he said like this: in previous generations, every child felt loved, no matter what. Meaning, it was natural instinct that every single child, he feels that he's being loved. He says, why? Parents were calm, life was simple, there was no iPhone, right? There was nothing else. So therefore, what do you have? The child has 100% love from his parents. He knows that. Even if they didn't even need to express it as much as we're doing nowadays. But they felt it, they felt secure, everything. Today, even in the warmest of houses, children still feel isolated. They feel that they're nervous, unwanted, seen. Why? It's not because we as parents are failing, it's because the world. Which means that we have to bring them back to that love. So I'll give you another thing, something incredible. The Chazon Ish once said, a normal father would never find the fault in their child. Meaning, if you come and you tell if somebody's going to ask you, how's your child? My child's perfect. He said, are you serious? You say, of course, my child's perfect. So then he says, so 1 second, nowadays, why is it not like that? The disciple says, 1 second, look how many times we come and we find faults in our own children. So he says, so obviously today we're not normal. What does that mean? Because a normal father or a normal mother would never find any fault. It's very, very simple. The child is an extension of ourselves. We're perfect. Correct? Are you perfect? Yeah, well, we're perfect, right? I'm perfect, you're perfect, we're all perfect. So if we're all perfect and my child is my extension, so he's automatically perfect. So if he's perfect, why in the world then can I find a fault in him? Why can I say, you know what? No, this child is this, right? The truth is, again, we're going back to what we mentioned before, it's the generation we live in, right? ADHD, did it ever exist? Right? ADHD is another term for meaning equals healthy child. Nowadays, you have to put a tag, right? Today is a world of tags, right? You put a, how do you call it, hashtag, and you put all these, labels. Everything's labels, or just put something there. So therefore, what happens? A healthy child is a child that's running around. So now, why? Because he's running around, now you have to come and you have to say, okay, fine, now this one's ADHD, ADD, you just keep on putting just different terms and labels, right? And then knocking some medicine into them as well. So making sure that, you just tip them over, right? And then all of a sudden, it's not there. Now why? Because again, we're going back to it. The disciple is saying, why do they feel like this? So he comes and he says, society already is attacking who we are. And therefore, the first job in Chinuch is not going to be rules or boundaries or consequences or incentives, trying to get them to do things. The first one is, how do we repair our own identity? How do we come and we repair ourselves to think that we are worth something? Because if we're going to fix ourselves, that's going to fix our children. If we think that we're not good, so then how do we want our children to feel? Right? It's 100%. Now, that in itself, there's many different ways of doing it. One way I actually heard was something incredible. Do you know every single morning we say Modani lefanecha? What is that exactly? We come and we say Modani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. So we come and we're saying thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Modani lefanecha, right? Melech chai v'kayam, right? How do you translate those words? The king, right? Chai v'kayam. Who's chai v'kayam? Hashem? Obviously not, right? We don't need to say Hashem is chai v'kayam. As if he's already chai, he's kayam. We are chai v'kayam. We are saying thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we are chai v'kayam, that we are living and we are established in this world, right? Shechazata bi nishmati bechemla, that you gave me back the neshama. Rabbi Munatecha. So usually we could translate, what is Rabbi Munatecha? Right? That we have belief in you, that you're going to give back the neshama. An incredible explanation is Rabbi Munatecha means, you know why you give us back our neshama? Because you believe in us. Not we believe in you. Rabbi Munatecha means, emunatecha, your belief in us is incredible. Meaning, Hashem believes in me. Hashem thinks that I'm worth it, and therefore He's giving me back my neshama to fix myself, to give me another day, to give me another chance, to do something positive, to build. When we come and we look at that every single morning, and we say to ourselves, wow, if Hashem believes in me, that means there's something in me. There's something good. I could do something. If we fix our positive outlook in ourselves, so automatically we're going to fix the positive outlook within our children. Not only in how we look at our children, but also our children are going to fix it themselves. Because it's not only anymore that, listen, if I'm worthless, you're worthless, because if you're my child, then I'm worthless. So obviously it just continues going, but the opposite. If I'm worth $1 million, you're also worth $1 million, and it continues going. So therefore, we have to start working upon ourselves, right, to come and to realize what's going on. How did they see this? It was once, a story with Reb Chaim Kanievsky. What happened was, Reb Chaim Kanievsky went and he convinced a rabbi to write a book on Chinuch. What happened is the mother comes after a little while, and she comes and she goes to the rabbi and she says, one second, you know what, I read your book, but I don't like it. He says, why not? He says, it's not written there about that that you should pray for Chinuch Iladim. Valid question? Yeah? So he went and he said, okay, go to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and ask the question. Yeah, go to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, ask him the question. So she went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, she went through the Rabbanit Kanievsky, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky went and he told the Rabbanit, ask this woman, is she allowed to pray for Chinuch Yiladim? Yeah, it's good. I see all the faces like, what? Is she allowed to pray? What is everyone going to answer? No, a mother, a Jewish mother, are you allowed to pray for Chinuch Yiladim?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to tell me, of course. What are you talking about? Reb Chaim Kanievsky comes and he says, I think it should be a sur for you to pray for Chinuch Yiladim. Now again, if it wasn't Reb Chaim Kanievsky, she would probably say, this guy's reform, I don't know what. This is Reb Chaim Kanievsky talking. So what happened? So he went and he told his wife, you have to explain to her as follows. Imagine right now, I want to put on tefillin. So you know what? I'm going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what? Please, do me a favor. Bring me a malach. That he should bring me a pair of tefillin. I'm going to put my hand over here. Let him put on the tefillin on me. And then that's it. Sounds good? Does it work or not? No? Why not? What does the ishtadlut mean?
You have to do your own effort.
You have to do it yourself. More than ishtalut. The ma'aseh, the action, is your part. Some people, what they make a mistake is, they think, right, that chinuch yiladim is to do with what? I'm just going to come and I'm going to pray. It's not praying. It's not praying. Afterwards, it's praying. Meaning, how do we educate our child? What do we just say? The first rule, right? We said there's Yemin Mekarevet, the right hand, which remember, the right hand is usually the stronger hand. So you have to have much more of the Mekarevet. What is the kirva? Karov. You have to bring them in. How do you bring them close? Unconditional love. That's the first thing. The second thing is the small doche, the left hand, which is the weaker hand, you have to push away. How do you push away? With authority, right? But again, that means the unconditional love has to be much more than the authority that you're going to exert, that you're going to give. But one second, how am I going to come and just say, you know what, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, simple. I don't have to do anything. Just please, just give me good children. That doesn't work. He says, where's your ishtalut? So many times people are lazy, and then they come and they say, no, I've got bitachon. You come and say, but why don't you work a little bit? No, I've got bitachon in Hashem. I'm just waiting for it to come. And then you have other times that a person comes and he does it over ishtalut. You're saying, but where's your bitachon? So sometimes we get it backwards. Because when you're supposed to be doing the bitachon, you're doing the ishtalut. When you're supposed to be doing ishtalut, now all of a sudden I have bitachon in Hashem. What are you doing? So he says what you're supposed to be doing is, you have to follow the guidelines. How do you follow the guidelines? The guidelines is the Torah. How do we start the shiur? We said a child comes with a blueprint. He comes with a booklet, the manual. What's the manual? The Torah. How are we going to see it in the Torah? So something incredible. Listen to this, right? The Chazal already say this, whether it's Zohar and everything, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He made a blueprint for this world. What's the blueprint for the world? Yistakel b'oraita, right? Ubare alma. What does that mean? He came, he looked into the Torah, and then he came and he made the world. Make sense or not? Anybody understands a little bit about building? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, fine. I'm gonna ask you a question. Imagine right now I give you blueprints, right? I give you the blueprints of this house, and all of a sudden I call you up and I say, Eitan, I've got a problem. You know what the problem is? In the blueprints, it's written that the socket of the electricity is here, but according to the way that it should be over there. So what are you gonna tell me? Fine, okay. It could be that it's in the blueprint like that. Either just ignore the blueprint, just move it over a little bit, and that's it. But just change it a little bit. Right? So if it's going to be a blueprint, it means that this is more or less the way that it's built, but we're going to have to make some changes. But there's the end of the pasuk there. The pasuk says, "Uba beoraita idbare alma." In the Torah itself is the entire world. What does that mean? In the Torah itself is the entire world. Every detail is already in the Torah. You don't have to change anything. So it's more than a blueprint. If you tell me that the Torah is a blueprint, it just means, listen, I'm going to come and I'm going to make you a plan. I'm going to make the room. But all of a sudden I call you up, there was a problem with electricity over here. So now you have to start making changes to the plan. And certain things, I didn't even know about it. So I told you that it's going to cost you $10,000 to change this wall and to change everything. And that's going to cost you $20,000. But there was a hidden pipe and there was a hidden this and the electricity and everything else that I didn't even take into account for. He says, no, the Torah is not like that. The Torah is not only a blueprint. Everything is already written in the Torah. And therefore there's nothing that's going to change. So for example, right, something incredible that they actually bring down, right, when they're speaking about it, right, the Torah is reality. So I'm going to give you an example, right? How long is the gestation of a child? Pregnancy, how long is it?
40 weeks.
40 weeks. Anybody else? How many days? Huh? So he's very smart. Eitan just said, listen, I'm going to be very, very smart. Somebody said 40 weeks, whoever was over there. 40 times 7, 280. Right? The Gemara says it's 271. How do I know it's 271? The numerical value, the gematria of Herayon is 271. So we were actually speaking about it tonight in the Bet Knesset, and I told them that people don't realize. When do the Goyim count the 40 weeks? When she becomes a Nida.
Before.
How are you going to come and start having right now? How do you start a child from the time of Nida? It doesn't work. So therefore what happens is they're counting 40 weeks, right? But they're counting it earlier. We're not counting from there. We're always counting from the night of the mikveh going forward, which that's the night of the conception. So therefore it's going to be later on. So therefore if you're going by days, it's 271. I'll give you another example, right? What is this called? Hand. Hebrew? Yad. What's yad, numerical value? 14. How many joints do you have in your hand? 14. You have 3, 6, 9, 12. Here you only have 2. 14. There's 14 joints in your hand because that's why it's called yad. The mitziut, the reality of the word, the reality of the world is according to what the Torah actually has in it. The Torah does not change. The Torah is a mitziut. The Torah is a reality. So therefore, if the Torah is going to be a reality, so therefore what happens is that Chazal do not come and impose different things. They knew exactly what it was there. So therefore, what happens is that something incredible. Chachamim, they were able to look into the Torah and find every single thing that was needed. So for example, if a person has anxiety, right? So they were able to come and they were able to say, okay, fine, to fix anxiety, what do? I look into the Torah and I find out where in the Torah is it hinted, the entire concept, how do I fix anxiety? And therefore, it's actually very, very important. Why? Because the most fundamental emotional need of every single human being, meaning what does a person need most, is unconditional love. Love of who they are, not what they do. Which means it's the most important, the ingredient. If somebody needs, what's the most ingredient? You have to feel loved. If you're not feel loved, there's a big problem. Right? And that's why. So therefore, that's going to be number one. And again, not because of how you made kiddush, or how you said bikat hamazon, or how you davened, or how you, that's not that. It's 100% starting with that. Now, when we're going to come and speak about the scenario, we're going to start as follows. Right? For example, the mother comes and she tells her daughter, listen, can you clean up your room? So the girl comes, she starts running and she cleans up the room. Now there were 33 things in the room, all balagan. Right? It was all a mess. 33 things. Only. Right? Only 33. Right? What happens is the girl comes, she cleans 32, and she left the shoes in the middle of the room.
Upside down.
Yeah, upside down or inside out, whichever. So the shoes are in the middle of the room. The mother comes, and she comes and says, "This is how you clean the room? This is terrible. What are you doing? Why? How are you cleaning the room like that?" So now the question is, the way the mother just criticized her daughter, is that correct or incorrect?
It's amazing.
Incorrect. Why? Why is it incorrect?
Only see what's wrong.
Which one?
You only see what's wrong.
Because exactly, you're only seeing what's wrong. So therefore, what the child here is something incredible. She starts scratching her head. She says, one second. I just did 32, and by the way, you should know there's also for Shalom Bayit, by the way. Yeah? Okay, because the men usually do the 32 out of the 33, but they always get on the head for the 33rd, right? But okay, so it's part, remember, the most important concept of Chinuch is if you have good Shalom Bayit, you have good Chinuch. So we're always going to connect it, all right? Just remember that. So what happens, right? You get on the head for the... You're going to say, but what did I do? I did 32 out of the 33. I went and I washed the dishes, and I did this, and I took out the garbage. Okay, so there was one little thing that I didn't do. What's...
Don't give example.
Don't examples. Okay, fine. Don't give the examples. Fine. No, it's not me. It was somebody else. But fine. Okay. So the question now is, so what happens? Science fiction. So he says, so 1 second. So what's going on over there? So what happens is that she comes, and the proper way of saying it is, whatever her name is, right? Let's, we're going to start with Sarah. We'll take the first name in the, right? With Sarah. Oh, you want Chava? Okay, fine. Right? So whichever one, right? The first name you're going to come, Sarah. By the way, you should know, I saw that you put your pillow on your bed. And I saw that you actually did the bed. And then after I saw that you did this, and you did that, and you did that. Now, after counting all the 32 praises, now you could say, by the way, you forgot to put the shoes away. Right? Now, why? Why is that important? Very, very simple. Because what the child actually hears is, why do you hate me? Now, the mother's going to say, I don't hate you. All I just told you was, how do you clean up your room? You didn't do it. But 1 second. She reads in her brain, you hate me. Because if I just did 32 positive things, and the only thing that you've got to tell me is, what about the shoes? The one negative, what does that translate? Whether you're saying it or not, this is in the mind of the child. So the mind of the child is, why do you hate me? Now you're going to say, I hate you, chas v'shalom. I'm your mother. How do I hate you? And the answer is, that's what they're understanding. How do you hate me? Why am I always bad? Right? If you love me, you would teach me. You're not going to scream at me. But it's not an exaggeration. This happens thousands of times again. And this is not only just in cleaning the room. This is going there and everything. So therefore, right, they always think, what? If my mommy's the perfect one, so obviously I'm the bad one. And they continue going. So it's very important that basically, why is it that the parents then are acting like this? So why are we coming out like this? So there was a broken mesorah, which means like this. In the olden days, and this is where we went wrong. How do we start before? If you remember, we said in the olden days, whether it's even our parents, we didn't even have to go to the grandparents, right? They had a certain tradition. They had something that the parents loved them. And unconditionally, there was something there. They had it. They felt it. So what changed exactly? So what happened is whether it's going to be because of the Holocaust, or even what happened with, whether it's going to be even in Morocco or all the other, Sephardic places where we were taken away and then we were put into a new place and now you're going to come and you're going to take the taxi driver and he's going to tell you, yeah, he came from Morocco or whatever, his grandfather came from Morocco, or his father came from Morocco. He doesn't have the same sort anymore. So for him, his entire tradition of how to educate children was already broken. Just like what happened during the Holocaust. Everything broke. So therefore, what do we have to do? We have to rewire ourselves in order to come and to teach the children, to give them that love that we actually have, that we're supposed to give them. So therefore, what is going to be? So for example, right, authority in Chinuch. So we're going to come and we're going to speak about what exactly is authority in Chinuch. How do we start off? We came and we said it's very, very important to educate. Educate does not mean educating, because as I already said, Chinuch does not mean that I get the result now. Because I just went and I forced them to do their homework. Chazak Baruch, they did their homework now. They learned the Gemara now. But in 20 years, they're going to hate the Gemara. Right? And you don't know how many times it happens that the rabbis, right, they get the phone call and they come and they tell the rabbi, Rabbi, you don't understand. I put so much emphasis on tefillah and my son hates to pray. So you come and you say, okay, so let me know. Why? And you're saying, but it doesn't make sense. Because in everything else, it was fine. But specifically on this, that I invested so much, I would say, listen, at least that he should like. So you ask him, but how was it tefillah? It was very, very simple. I didn't even go to Nets to pray. I went to the regular minyan just to be with my son. So, okay, continue. So he said, I made sure he was there, and I grabbed him like a police officer, and I made sure that he was falling like this, word for word. Every time he looked up, boom, or that, whatever it is. So I did good chinuch. Look how much I did. Was that good chinuch? So again, obviously what? Anything that you realize that now you are going to come and you're going to do is going to go the exact opposite. Why? Because you made them hate it. So therefore, what's going to happen is, and that's what's going to be the concept of what happens like this. Every human being craves for authority. Imagine right now you have Rav Ovadia Yosef, the Chavetz Chaim, that he comes into this room and he says, can you turn off the light? What's going to happen? Everyone's going to run. Are you going to ask questions? One second, we're in the middle of shiur. Why are you going to turn off the light? Anyone's going to ask a question? No. Why? Because everybody believes that he's a gadol hador, and if he's going to come and he's going to tell us something, what do? We immediately listen. No questions, no nothing, no ifs, buts, whys. We immediately go and we turn off the light. Why? Because there's authority. It's built into us. We need that. People need authority. However, though, what happens is that there's going to be a concept that eroded through time, which is during the time of Ikvata the Mashiach again. What's happening? A son is going to curse against his father, the daughter against her mother, the daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law, right? There you have the mother-in-law jokes, right? And the enemies are within the house. What does it mean? Once upon a time, if you want an enemy, it has to be outside of the house. All of a sudden now, your enemy is within your house. You have the enemy. Why? Because there's going to be so much wars and so much fighting. It's from within the house. So why do we need then? Any type of authority then? So the answer is very, very simple. Authority is what makes a person feel safe. It makes them feel healthy, right? I'll give you an example. If right now we were going to be in a tent and we're outdoors, so if you're going to tell me if you want to go outside, it's much easier. But the tent is not that stable. So imagine right now that it's raining hard and you've got a wind, so you don't feel comfortable. Why? You're not sure with any moment it could just fall. So what happens? You need something stable. You need something very strong. The same thing would happen. Imagine right now they're on the roof and they're going to be playing on the roof. Now there's no rail, there's no guard, there's no railing, there's no nothing, there's no wall, there's no protection. You're afraid. Why? You're getting a little bit close to the edge. It's dangerous. Every single time, imagine right now somebody comes up there and he starts putting bricks to make a wall. Every brick that you put there, you just made these people, they even feel safer. Because beforehand, but now I feel safe. So what happens is that nowadays we don't have authority. Why is it that we don't have authority? Right? Because really, be'emet, today, we don't feel authority. Even the people that are the top, we don't even respect them because they lost respect for themselves. So it could be whether it's going to be kings, whether it's going to be presidents, whether it's going to be prime ministers, and you come and you say, but that's the example? How could that be the example? If be'emet they were an example, wow, that's authority. But if there's no example left, so then we're losing that. And that's why children are finding it hard, because at the end of the day, in order for us to understand what is authority, authority is going to be when they're respected for it, when they're actually living up to that. Rav Palm, he came and he said the following. Rav Palm, he says like this, he says, does your face say I love you? Right? There was a child, right, that he says, right, when your child comes into the room, does your face shine up? Right? Your child just came in. Did you pay attention to them? Did your face shine? He says, many children, they come and they think that the parents are upset at me. Why? I came in, they ignored me. They didn't even look at me. So for when they come in, that's going to happen. So every single time that you see your child, right, see their reaction. All of a sudden you just surprise them and now you're here. Do they have a smile? Are they happy to see you? Or are they sad to see you? Not sad, or just indifferent. If they're happy to see you, it means that you're doing something good. If they're not, that means obviously we're doing something wrong. Because they should be happy to see us. Because if we have this unconditional love, so then they're happy to see us. You have to give authority, 100%. They want that authority. So therefore, what happens is that, where does this come in? So we're almost done. I'm going to explain to you an incredible yesod. This is already by the altar of the Saba Mikelem. and the Russians, they discovered it a few centuries later, right? But it says as follows. Do you know there was a group that they used to go around with a zoo? Not a zoo, they used to make plays, and they used to, in order to make money. So they had what's called the dancing bears, right? The dancing bears. A circus, but it was the dancing bears. How was it exactly the dancing bears? They used to put on music, and the bears used to come and they used to dance. So everybody asked, is it possible to train a bear to dance? Does it make sense? Yeah? You could train them?
Yeah.
We can train a lion.
So you're saying you could train a bear. So you know how they trained the bear? With cruelty. You know how they did it? They used to take them when they were cubs, right? This is also called the Pavlov. It's the Pavlovian conditioning. They used to take a cub, and when they used to take the small bears, they used to cut off the legs, right? The bottom parts of the feet, or they used to put them on coals, and they used to play music. Now what happens is that every single time they used to do that, right? They remember what's called, every time that they put on the music, what does it remind them of? They associate in their brain with what? With pain and suffering. So therefore they start jumping. Now they're not jumping out of joy because they love the music, right? It's not like a new Betty Freeman or no, it's not that. It's very, very simple. It's they associate the music to what happened beforehand. So therefore they're going to come and they're going to have this. So now what happens like this, our children, they make associations to everything that we do. So for example, we came and we get angry at something. Whether it's going to be because of, for example, we want them to study Gemara. So we come and we start getting angry at them, or we want them to study for a test, and we start yelling at them and this and that. So what happens? All of a sudden now, every time that they open up a Gemara, they see Gehinam. Why do I say Gehinam? Because they see fire, right? Why? Because they started hating it. Now it's true, did you get them to learn? Of course you got them to learn. But again, that's not chinuch, because 10 years from now, or not even 10 years from now, 3 years from now, are they going to learn? They're not going to learn Gemara. They'll never want to open up the Gemara in their lives. So what's going to happen? So now they have a problem. The problem is going to be if they don't want to open up a Gemara, what do we just do? We didn't do chinuch. That was anti-chinuch. We went against chinuch. So what are we supposed to do? The only way to do it is to reframe it. What does that mean? If we already now did something negative, we have to fix it. How are you going to fix it? You say, you know what Gemara is? There is fire. But you know when the fire comes? There's seraphim, there's angels, and those angels is Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel, meaning their names are Malachim. So when a person is going to come and they're going to learn Gemara, there is a fire. But that fire, Be'emet, is something completely different. And you're supposed to change it the way that the child is now going to actually love it instead of hating it. He went and he said, there's a story with Rav Wolbe that he feared benching. So Rav Wolbe went and he said, you know what he just did right now? You trained your child that benching equals fear. Why? I hate benching, because every single time my father's on my head, with the whip, right? Bench. I can't stand it. So he says, you have to change it. You don't have to change it. Start with warmth, singing it. All of a sudden now, he loves it. All of a sudden now, the child will love it. Why? Because the association, what we did, was wrong. And therefore we came and we started making them associate, I don't like this. Why don't I like it? Because I didn't enjoy it. So if we're going to come and we're going to understand then, how do we change this? So obviously there's going to be a lot more in the coming shiurim, but we're just going to sum it up as follows. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to assert authority. Authority is not beating up, not physical. Authority is to give a very simple command to force them to do something. 100%. When we're doing that, that's not actually education. That's not actually chinuch. That was a better word. It's not chinuch. So for example, I want them to say Birkat Hamazon. It's not chinuchi to say, listen, I don't want to say Birkat Hamazon. Okay, so just don't say it. No, that's not education either. I have to force them to say it. So I will force them to say it. Right? The force which is exerting authority, putting authority, we're going to say next time is, you have to say it sternly, right? As a command. A command. Say Birkat Hamazon. Right? You have to say, what was the question? Yeah, firm. You have to say it firm, right? Say Birkat Hamazon. Now again, sometimes they're even not going to listen to you. But as we already said beforehand, and that's going to be next shiur, you're not supposed to pay attention. Because even if sometimes they're not going to listen to you, it doesn't matter, right? We'll mention this in the future, right? Something incredible to do with chinuch, and this I'll never forget. I think it was even brought down by Rav Wolbe, right? But right now I want to punish a child. Yeah, I tell him, go to your room. Yeah, and don't come out. I'm gonna ask you a question. Do I need to close the door, or I can leave the door open? Leave it open. Why am I going to leave it open? The reason why is because I don't need to close the door in order for them not to leave the room. I need them to learn the fact that I told you don't, right, leave the room. That's already enough, right? How do you start this with even a little child? You know how you start with a little child, a little baby, a 1-year-old, right? You know what you do? You come and you put the flowers over there, right? And you let the baby start crawling. The baby's going to go straight for the flowers. You tell them very firmly, right? You're not going to go to the flowers. And you tell them with not angry, no screaming, no hurrying the voice. Don't go to the flowers. Now, they're going to realize the pitch, the tone of voice, right? They're going to say, he just told me no, but he doesn't realize that. But all of a sudden, he's still going to continue going. You come and you take him back. You let him do that 3 or 4 times. He's going to start realizing that after a few times, when I hear this tone, this no, it means stop. It means that I'm not going to go over that. Right? Why? Because that's what authority is. So what are you supposed to do? You come and you put them in your room. You don't need to close the door. Leave the door open. Because the chinuch is not that just because I close the door, now you're not allowed to go out. You're not allowed to go out because I told you you're not allowed to go out. Now, even if they're not going to listen to you, that doesn't matter. Because again, as we already said, you're not supposed to come, right? Imagine right now, somebody once said of Malkil Cutler, right? The head of all of Lakewood. There's one guy that didn't listen to him in some Bet HaMidrash. You think that every single time one person didn't listen, he's going to have to get into a car, go over there and tell the guy off. He's going to ignore him. Because the fact that I assert the authority, that's the authority that's done. That's it. They will respect it another time. Maybe this time, no, fine. So 1 or 2, doesn't matter. But you have to give it firm. Once they already do that, and they're doing what I want them to do, now you have to attach it with love. So for example, I wanted them right now to come and say Birkat Hamazon. He's not listening to me, or she's not listening. Say Birkat Hamazon, right? Again, you don't have to say it screaming. Say Birkat Hamazon. They come, they sit down. After saying it, look, now bring the warmth, bring the love. Now that they enjoy. Once they enjoy it, now they're going to associate in their mind, Birkat Hamazon is something enjoyable. If Birkat Hamazon is something enjoyable, now I did chinuch. And now if it's enjoyable, they'll continue saying it. Even when they're 30, 40, 50 years later, they will always say it. And many times they'll even sing it the same way that you sing it now. Because they enjoy it. At the beginning, I had to force them to say it, yes, and that's not chinuch. The chinuch comes afterwards when I give them the love. Sometimes you have to give the authority, and then you're going to have to come to give them the love. So to sum up, remember everybody, chinuch is educating, but for the future, not for now. Any action that they're doing now is not education. The education is going to be in the future that I'm initiating, I'm starting something, so that way 20 years, 30 years down the line, they're going to continue to be able to do it. That is called chinuch. Right now, if I'm going to force them to do something, that's not chinuch. And if I force it in the wrong way and I don't make it enjoyable, it's actually anti-chinuch. Even though I want them now, I got them to do it. But it's not chinuch. Because if 10 days down the line or a year down the line, they're not going to do it, I completely missed the boat. So just always to remember, there are 2 aspects of chinuch. The authority, that we have to give the authority of who we are, and that's going to have healthy children, and we're going to give all the benefits of authority later on, Bezat Hashem, next year. And then after that also, but we always have to give them conditional love. Unconditional love means I love them no matter what. And I always have to show it to them. And I can continue showing to them. Continue showing them that I always love them. That doesn't mean spoiling them. Doesn't mean that I'm ignoring their bad behavior. It doesn't mean all that. But it means that I always love them for who they are, Bezat Hashem.